It's impossible to go with no education as an immigrant, being incarcerated for years, to $1 billion valuation. Or is it? I'll tell you all about it. I think one of the best stories of my immigrant life is that my family made the journey from the previously known USSR in the Soviet Union. My family fled communism in a way that was so hard and difficult, but made that long journey to the other side of the world to provide a better life for our family, including me as their young son. So at this day and time, I wonder, how did my parents pack up 3 kids with not knowing the language, not knowing anything, with less than $100 of value, US dollars of value, and made this journey on the other side of the world to give their children a chance to have a life of freedom and liberty? Well, they made that journey when I was a young 7-year-old boy. From that journey, it began in me living through poverty with my parents, learning English, selling goods on the streets, working in flea markets. I, from a young age, knew that I needed to work because my family needed help. I remember the time when I was an 11-year-old boy, and my mother and my father, I used to hear them very clearly. Till this day, my dad used to ask my mother, "Why do you keep bringing bills every time you go to the mailbox?" My mother responds, "What am I supposed to do? There's bills in the mail, I bring bills inside." But I used to hear the struggles and the arguments in a sense of how are we going to make ends meet this month? But they never showed me that this financial stress was abundantly on the forefront of their minds. I used to sit on the stairs and hear them and listen to their struggles about how they're going to make next month's mortgage payment. How are they going to be able to pay for food? How are they going to be able to pay for gas? And I remember as an 11-year-old boy, I swore to myself on those stairs that the day I'm able to work more, I will make sure my parents never see a bill in their life again. And that was my why. I was a young 14, 15-year-old young man, just turning 15 actually. I was in an unfortunate situation where I was protecting my family that I thought was in a bit of a danger. In the process of protecting my family member, I committed a crime, which unknown to me was a crime. I was incarcerated for about 3 years at 15 years old. I was stripped from my family, never went to high school in reality, never had the privilege of educating myself or being educated. And in this process, I learned about how the incarceration system really works. Whether it was at a juvenile or a potential adult, the incarceration that I faced was just as biblical to me as it would have been to any 20-year-old at the time. To be stripped of your rights, to be stripped of your freedom, to be stripped from you having the ability to go to the restroom, take a shower, or eat, or even brush your teeth, will wake a young man up. And in that process, it's very difficult for me to talk about this because I normally don't. It was a very troublesome situation in my life. But I want to share this with you because in hindsight, it was the biggest blessing of my life. As I was incarcerated, a few of the guards took a liking to me due to my mannerism. They noticed that I say, "Thank you, ma'am," "Yes, sir," "I appreciate you." And when they would engage me and tell me to be quiet, go to sleep, or will call is over, or head call is over, which means you're using the restroom, I would obey them, and I would be very respectful because it's cultural. In the process, they learned about my situation and my past. I was approached during the graveyard shift hours by one of the guards, and he released me out of my cell and said, "K-Man," they reference to you by your last name with the first letter. "We want to speak with you." I engage them and say, "What can I do for you? Is everything okay, sir?" They go, "Why did you do the crime that you did, that you were persecuted or prosecuted for?" I said, "I was protecting a family member. I did not know I committed a crime." Unknown to me, these guards saw that every Sunday, my mother and my father, when given an opportunity, would come and try to visit me. And unfortunately, not every other child or every other young man that was incarcerated had that support from their family. At one point, I told my mother that I do not want my father to come to visit me anymore because I saw the mental, emotional, and spiritual stress he was under, that he couldn't help his son, who was a great child, but now is incarcerated with murders and various other high criminal altitude of people. But this guard said, "Do you understand you made a mistake, K-Man?" I responded to him, "Yes. In hindsight, I do understand. I made a mistake." He said to me, "Do you read books?" I said, "Of course I read books. There's not much else to do." He gave me a book by Napoleon Hill called Think and Grow Rich. And he would let me out every night to clean, mopping, brooming, wiping. And in the process, he would ask me about the chapters of the book that I read. And he would quiz me on them. What did you think of chapter 4, manifestation? What did you think of chapter 8? Thoughts can be real if reality can be created by thoughts. And I would regurgitate answers to him about what I interpreted from what I read. After I was done with Napoleon Hill, he would give me Brian Tracy, 10 Keys of Successful People, of Successful Entrepreneurs. And I didn't know at the time what was happening. But when you are young and you have nothing to do other than read, work out, and sleep, I read as much as possible and I did as many push-ups as possible. And in the process of having only those 2 to 3 things to do, you can understand how the mind and the body can digest information so much clearly. In the process of educating myself through these books that I was given by these guards, and I say guards because there was 2 of them that really took a liking to me and realized that I might have a future. Unknown to me, they shared these books with me that in essence, without a high school education, a junior high school education, if played a form of indoctrinating me. I was indoctrinated by books that help people become successful. Upon my release, right before I turned 18 years old, due to an appeal and various support from the local guards and various other officers that were involved in the facility, I was released right before 18 years old. And I couldn't be happier. I was released to a group home for the first 6 months to assess my valuation, to see if I can emerge myself back into civilization, if my anger, my violence is potentially able to erupt again. Kind of a grace period before they release you to the public. I swore to myself and God, give me a second chance. It's amazing how people find God when they're incarcerated. It's as if He is your only friend. And you imagine one thing, and that one thing is that there's the Lord above that can save you. And in the promise that I made to Him, I decided that I will fulfill that promise if He got me out. His doing, with the support of others, I was released. 6 months later, I was released from the group home, and my journey began. Being released at 18 years old and coming out of juvenile hall system, being incarcerated, I was faced with multiple dilemmas. No high school diploma, no real education, and the burden of knowing the pain and troubles I put my family through due to my incarceration for 3 years. I came out with a vengeance of desire to succeed, and the books and the education that I self-educated myself due to the help of the guards that were overseeing us really built a foundation mentally and spiritually inside of me that I never knew I had. I was so indoctrinated with the beliefs of the books that I've read while I was incarcerated that I did not know reality from fiction. I thought in my mind, truly what I read was a power that can be exercised. Boy, did I exercise. On one shoulder, I had the burden of doing right by my parents, who worked and struggled and lost so much in my process of being incarcerated. And the second shoulder, I had the burden of proving to myself that I am not the man that I was once led to believe I might have been. Holding those 2 demons on my shoulder, one being an angel, one being a demon of self-doubt, it gave me focus. And my focus was to engage with work. Immediately, my probation officer suggested that I either enroll in school to get my diploma or I find a job. Being the guy that I am, I realized that there's no better opportunity than me to get a job, because what more can I do but to work on fixing the problems I had created many years prior. My first position in work, I engaged in door-to-door sales, and that took me to a place that I couldn't imagine. You. And that's what ended up happening, one of the learnings in my book. From 18 years old on to 20 years old, in my door-to-door sales, I sold satellite dishes. Unknown to me, DirecTV overnight became a free system, a free satellite dish with no credit check. This is me at 18 and a half years old, selling a DirecTV system for $500 with a credit check. And overnight, the DirecTV service provider says free. It was like giving candy to a baby. Everybody wanted a satellite dish on their home. Everybody wanted a satellite box in their home. Everybody wanted it, needed it, and they could have it now. And that prevailed me financially so well at 18 and a half, 19 years old, making $20,000, $30,000 a month. What reason did I have to go back to high school? At the time, I thought that. I make more than a teacher would. I don't really want a GED. At the time, I felt that it was potentially a stripe, not in good scar, but definitely a potentially damaging scar to have a GED. So I chose otherwise. I stuck in the work world. From 18 to 21, I was the top salesman in Northern California for DirecTV. I had the best outlets, I had the best offices, and the best installation crew within 2 years from my release into working on into my third year of my success with DirecTV. From 18 years old, starting a business as door-to-door or engaging in a door-to-door business, starting my own retail facilities for leather, apparel, and various other car goods, including the state-of-the-art Prius batteries that we engaged in as a niche, only to watch all of it get decimated in late 2007, 2008. To have everything that you've worked so hard for be stripped away from you in a matter of months is quite the awakening situation. And there, God sent another pillar. He made another call, and I was listening. And the call on the other side was medical cannabis. I remember that my grandmother was a religious woman. And if I even spoke the word marijuana or cannabis, you can rest assured I would be walking out of that house with potentially a shoe thrown behind my back. My grandmother was religious to her core beliefs and will never allow such a plant to be nowhere near her or her body. But here I am wondering as a young man, Grandma, why do you trust a man in a white robe who tells you that these pills such as Vicodin, codeine, Oxycontin, various opiates that are severely damaging to the kidneys and liver, why do you take those but cannabis is not okay? Well, my grandson, because the doctor said it's okay. They say I need it. When I realized that the doctors did not love my grandmother more than me, is the day that I realized I have something that the doctors don't, which is my grandmother's trust. But first, I had to use a Trojan horse theory. I located a balm that was specifically for fatiguing and various other pain issues associated to knees, back, and ankles. And on this balm, I ripped anything pertaining to cannabis and made sure that my colleagues who manufactured this product, who swore to me it would work, would strip any scent of it. I went to my grandmother and told her that a good friend of mine, his father develops this from beeswax, Grandma, and you're gonna love it. It's got special honey inside. Unknown to her, but the trust and love she has for her grandchild, started utilizing this product and this plant. Only weeks later for me to see her walking, laughing, and living without pain. And that was my cue, that no matter what, I must make sure that I can provide this for my grandmother. Not only that, but many other products to help her in this process of healing. That journey, for the love of my grandmother, took me to the love of everyone else. I should be more honest with everyone. I didn't get in the cannabis industry. The cannabis industry chose me. From losing everything I had pertaining to retail, house, any liquid cash flow that I could use to live a normal life. From getting on my knees and praying to God, asking Him for direction and guidance. The next day I received a phone call from a colleague who was looking for medical marijuana to be able to assist him in his medical marijuana dispensary. This call was the beginning of the most amazing journey, one of the most amazing journeys I've had. That call was the ignition to my curiosity. That call was the curiosity that created this opportunity. I learned and immersed myself as much as possible. Every book, every video, every person that I could meet that knew anything about the plant and its benefits was a journey of me soaking up information, no different than the way I did when I was incarcerated. I was focused. I had a drive and ambition to learn, which led me to learning about cultivation, learning about growing the plant. And that was the beginning of me beginning to grow in a one-bedroom closet size cultivation, and to grow that today to a multi-million-dollar industry with hundreds and hundreds of employees and valuations of over $1 billion from that one closet and that one phone call. Well, let me tell you, being in the cannabis industry was no joke. It was actually one of the most dangerous industries to be in at that time. Here you are, realizing that you have to get away with this business every day, but you only have to get caught once. Well, quite the dilemma that presents. If you try to open a facility to engage in medical marijuana sales at the time, if one police officer showed up, you're done. One agent from the DEA, one federal agent, one upset patient, one upset neighbor. That's it. Your end is there. I realized at that moment, at that time, that we are so vulnerable. We're vulnerable to criminal elements and organized crime. And do not let me fool you. The criminal element was alive and well, and they knew what we know. You cannot call the police. You don't have government support. You're an illegal enterprise, and you are up for the taking. So imagine being in a business, in an industry, that had nothing but dangers from every minute that door swung open and shut. From undercovers to criminal enterprises engaging in theft, robbery, heists, break-ins, local community shot callers who were sending their goons and criminal organizations to attack you, rob you, kidnap you. Being in this business was quite a stressful business. But coming from where I came from, which was incarceration, little did I know that I already had a foundation of strength built inside of me that prepared me back then for this situation that I was involved in there in that moment. Well, at that moment, watching the general fund run out of money with the city where they're laying off police officers and firefighters, and in this hand, we have the criminal enterprise that's realizing that we're easy grabbing victims. We thought to ourselves, what a great opportunity to have a one-on-one relationship with our local government. So I did the unthinkable. I went and knocked on the door of our city officials and our local council members, and I decided that what better than the honesty is the best policy. I told the local government officials, I am selling medical marijuana and cannabis, and I need your help to legitimize me. And that journey began working with local governments by merely knocking on a door and answering a call. At the shocking surprise of the local governments, not ever knowing that these businesses existed in their jurisdiction, but to the honesty that was presented to them at their doorstep, and for the good ethics and values and the intent of bringing value to preserve jobs for our first responders and law enforcement. The city took a liking, much like the prison guards or the jail guards that I was incarcerated with, and they worked hand in hand to develop one of the largest enterprises in California and throughout the country. Most times people ask me, how do you know what business to get into? My response is, everything that you use. Let nothing be better than to tell you about what you need than what you use. So my way of investing transpired in a form of what I need and what I use. If I use a security company, I learned how can I do it better? How can I improve it by 10%, 5%, which led me into owning one of the largest security surveillance companies in the Northern California region. Then I learned about real estate. How can I entitle them? How can I have a better real estate asset? If I'm renting, why not own it? If I'm an entrepreneur, I have the business, surely I should own the home I operate out of, which led me to build a real estate portfolio over $50 million plus. And then I learned more about technology. One of the most unique technology assets that we're working on today is blockchain, single-use certification and authentication. How do you know you have real Gucci's? How do you know you have a real Louis Vuitton? This is what the future will bring, including deep fakes. This is what blockchain with smart contracts will create. One of many businesses. On top of that, developing call centers, marketing companies, and various other restaurants and bars, and really understanding hospitality and customer service. One thing I've learned is that I can do something better. And when I know that I can do something better, it is a worthy business for me to get involved in. This journey was not easy. Just like it's not easy me doing this video for everyone. But I realized it's a necessity. My goal with this is to help you help yourself. My goal with this is to enlighten you on the mistakes I've made so you don't have to go through it. If I can save you from 1 or 10 mistakes, I am happy. And if you can preserve education and knowledge from my video or my mentorship, it would be an honor for you to share your journey with me directly. Thank you.